Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Difference Maker podcast with your hosts Matt and Chris Calderoni. It's going to be an awesome one today. We're getting into a part 1 of 2 series on the 5 ways to build your resilience, because this is something Chris and I were talking about where we really wanted to make sure we were bringing a lot of people value on this, but more importantly, this was a topic that a lot of people were asking about, right? Like just understanding how to be more resilient. Now, before we get into today's episode, please, like always, check out our website, www.molliteum.com. We've got our newsletter there where you can become a part of that. The Molliteum Insider, it's actually a training series that we've put together over the course of 52 weeks that trains you on with specific questions and notes and so on about how to build specific parts of your resilience. So it's some interesting stuff there. And of course, with the podcast, please share it, like it, subscribe to it, follow it, whatever it might be for whatever platform you're tuning into. Please, it helps support the channel, helps support the podcast, and helps spread the message. So 5 ways to be more resilient, part 1 of 2. We're going to talk about the first 5 here. And then we're also going to link in the blog article to this, because we did write a blog to it, which is good for anybody who wants to more so read and have that kind of tangible in front of them, right? So let's start with it, Chris. So topic number 1, establishing your purpose on how to become or helping you become more resilient. So establishing your purpose really has to do with kind of the motivational foundation behind your actions, right? And it's something that I think a lot of people miss and a lot of people don't have behind them, which is really finding and defining a why. Like, this is something we see with a lot of high performers who come in and they say, well, I want to score more goals, or I want to build a bigger business, or whatever it might be. And it's like, great, tell me your purpose. And they can't. And then they wonder why they duck out during the hard times.
And also, like, establishing your purpose. I was listening to some lady. I forget what her name is. If I find it, I'll link it to the bottom of this podcast. But this doctor, she was talking about how because of the world that we live in now, we have to find our purpose, and it's not dictated to us like it was before,
right?
Which is very interesting. Like the common male role, female role, sports role, like whatever, before society was able to do that for you.
Right.
And you didn't have to think about it so much. And now, because, everyone is kind of doing their own thing, they're finding their own purpose, they're questioning things and stuff like that, and are not necessarily following what society is telling them to do, which is fine. But it's more difficult for the individual to find that purpose. And that's why a lot of people are starting to ask why, how are we getting, or how am I finding my way into society? How am I doing this and that? So this is a very good exercise, especially for individuals that are having that issue, I guess, finding their reason as to why they're doing things. This is a perfect time to establish your purpose, understand what's going on. And I think we have a formula for that, right?
Yeah, so just to really slow down, because the thing is this, when you have a purpose, the whole point behind it of why it's so impactful for you to keep pushing yourself and driving yourself forward is because it has to be something that has emotional reason to you, right? And we've spoken about this when it came to values. We can link that episode, I'm sure, as well here too. But when we talked about the different kinds of values, the means versus ends, a lot of people chase the means and don't know the end behind it, right? Like the emotions behind it. So when you can understand exactly why you're connected to something emotionally, for example, I want to build a massive business. Okay, great. Why do you want that? Well, because I want to feel, let's say, like I'm making a difference in society. I want to feel significant. That is what you need to attach to during the tough times, right? Because I can guarantee you, if you're somebody who wants to make a difference in society so you can feel significant, like you contributed to this world, and I were to say, hey, even though you don't want to go do it on Monday because it's a tougher day for you to get up or whatever it might be, start of the week, but if you really wanted to make a significant impact on this world, you got to go do it. I guarantee you, if that had emotional meaning to you, you would, right? Just like the individual who we see a lot of the time, especially in the sports world or even in the business world, where they want to provide a better life for their family because they want to feel, secure and certain. But it's chasing the emotion, not chasing the thing, right? And when you chase the emotion and you have an emotional purpose that you resonate with and why you're going after what you're going after, you'll push through the tough times no matter what, right? So it's very simple. So right now, we'll challenge you during this podcast as we're going through it, even after, play it back, but have a journal, take some notes on what your real purpose is, why you want what you want. Like, I feel like some people try to get so mystical about this instead of just really realizing that your purpose always comes back to the emotional meanings as to why you want something. So ask yourself that simple question. Why do I want this? Why do I really feel that I need this? How will this make me feel if I accomplish this? That's the key, is to understand how you will feel.
And I think it's specific to you, right? And even
Absolutely.
like the age that you are. Like when I was younger, obviously, being a striker in soccer, it was just the simple feeling of like that after a goal. Like I was chasing that feeling. Like, people were pumped.
Yep.
The other team was pissed. And it's like that's the feeling that you're chasing. That was the purpose. So it was trained to give as much joy to your teammates as possible. Like that was the purpose, but at a young age, right?
Yep.
So depending on what age you are, what life experiences that you have, and like you said, maybe it's providing for your family for when you're older and stuff like that. It really does come down to the individual and what stage of life and experience that you do have.
Absolutely. Nope, that's huge. And then once you find this purpose, you simply review this once a day, and you'll notice that as you keep going through it, you keep building more and more and more. So think of this like a list that keeps going. And the more you can add to this list, the more things you can review, the more purpose that you get triggered with, the more emotion you get triggered with, and the more motivation you have and the will to push and adapt when the going gets tough. Let's go into topic 2. So point number 2, set a target, make a true commitment, and don't waver from it. I think this is one of the most important ones for building your resilience. We often talk about how a true decision is formed, and a true decision means that you make a decision on what you want, you commit to it, you take action to it. But then step number 4, what a lot of people don't realize is that it's adaptation. And then step number 5 is succeed. So the whole point to this, the reason that this is so important, is because if you want to be resilient, if you want to be more adaptable, if you want to be somebody that's able to be more resourceful, you have to realize that this is making an unwavering commitment and saying, I will find a way or make one no matter what. Often what do we find happen is that when people get to that step 4 of making that decision and adapting, they actually try once, it doesn't work out, and they say, oh, this isn't for me. Maybe I shouldn't go here. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And they completely scrap their idea. They don't try again, and they don't succeed. When really, it's like that classic, that classic meme or picture you see on like Instagram. And I think there's 2 guys digging for a diamond.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same distance as diamond. One guy ends up giving up, I think, like way early on, but the other guy just kept digging and digging and digging, and eventually he gets the diamond, right? So that's the whole point to this, is that when you make a true commitment, you have to realize, and you got to really lock into it and say, okay, if I want to become a top goal scorer for, my sport, I'm going to commit to that and find a way and adapt no matter what. If I want to build a multi-million-dollar business because I want to be able to change the world, then I'm going to commit to that, and I'm going to figure it out no matter what. But it is just committing to adaptation.
And I think the adaptation part, like in sports terms, you always see that in season a little bit later on, when guys really start to figure out, especially a defenseman to a forward, like when the opposing defenders start to figure out, this player is doing this over and over and over again. Like you might be finding early success, which is great. But once that challenge hits, you become a little bit maybe complacent. You start to figure out, okay, but yeah, I can always take advantage of this guy here or her here, there, in the same way. And it's like, as soon as they figure it out, it becomes hard again. It's like, damn. But that's a great indicator of like, okay, now it's time to innovate. Now it's time to adapt. And you're at that stage. Once you figure that stage out, you're making people just run all over the place because like they have no idea what you're capable of now.
And this is why a lot of people look at us, whenever we're working with a client, we're often talked about as like the calming voice, right? And the reason we're a calming voice is because we're not in the fire with you when we're working with you, right? We're able to see things from a different perspective and be like, oh, well, actually, you know what, you're stressing out over this. You really just need to make this tweak here, and I think that'll work. And that's the whole point behind this, right? It's finding those little tweaks. So think of it like this. Like, let's look at the first point. You have a purpose now, and you're committed to finding a way no matter what. You put those 2 things together, and now you've got resilience, right? You've got somebody who's motivated to do what they need to do and somebody who's willing to be flexible and adaptable.
Right.
And if you're flexible and adaptable, you will figure it out. So you always got to have that. We often say to our clients, you need to work in at least a day of reflection each week. If you are going through a tough time right now, you need to just slow down. Like, you can bring other people in to maybe give you some perspective. Just make sure they're the right people that actually know and care about it. But hey, a journal works just as well to just get your thinking on paper and chill out a little bit, right? So really commit to finding a way no matter what. Let's get into topic 3. So establishing your values and standing by them. I think this is one of the top ones I see clients ditch. when the going gets tough and you have to realize that the reality is you need to commit to this harder than you ever have when the going gets tough, when you have to adapt. When you live by values, think about this for a second. We follow people. Leadership is it's somebody who's willing to stand by their values, and we respect those people. And when you stand by your values of, for example, on Molliteum, we have dominate, serve, impact, passion, and resolve. When the going gets tough, we fall back on those values. Meaning, if the going gets tough, we got to find a way to dominate. If the going gets tough, we got to find a way to impact. If the going gets tough, we got to find a way to serve, to be passionate, and to find a way no matter what. Right? And if we fall back on those established values during the tough times, you can carry it through. Because I think a lot of people think that the moment they make one switch, everything is going to change. But think of focus, right? Or even change in direction with your body. First your eyes go, then your body goes. There's a lag effect. So if you have these values that you can fall back on, even when the going gets tough and you just focus on raising those, the outcomes will start to take care of itself.
Yeah, it gives you certainty I would say in times when you're flustered, right?
Sure.
So again, going through a tough time, you fall back on your values because you know that they're there. And sometimes when you are going through that tough time, it takes a second to remember what those values are.
Well, sorry, just not to cut that off, but I actually wanted to pan off this for a sec. Let's talk about this for a second, because I think this is something that often gets misunderstood. Even going through the good times, you should always be operating off of your values, right? This whole thing about outcomes a lot of the time is just, it's a bit of a facade, because I know for us here at Molliteum, I know for our clients we work with, this whole idea behind look at every product we make, look at the podcast we run, look at the standards we set for ourselves, right? It's a standard or a value of dominate, serve, impact, passion, and resolve. If we don't do those 5 things in any kind of journey we're on to get a certain result, we don't do it at all.
Right.
How many times have we restarted? Actually, just before this, let's be vulnerable here for a sec. The YouTube episode we were just trying to shoot didn't come out the way we like to. We've been working on it for a couple weeks. We want to do a different training video for all of you guys to be able to enjoy. The point is, though, it's that value-driven mentality behind your actions. And if you have these values that you're driven by and that you're focused on, adaptability becomes easy. Even look at us during COVID. I mean, us as a business during COVID was a tough one when we had to first look at it, but we were able to adapt simply because of the fact that we just kept abiding by our values. Dominate, serve, impact, passion, resolve. Whatever we do. We gave away some free trainings. We gave away some, free seminars. We gave away some free programs and whatever. But that was what dominate, served, impact, passion, and resolved in the moment.
Right.
Right. So you want to be able to be somebody who's resilient. You have to be able to have and establish your values and live by them. Okay. Point number 4, build systems to adapt. This is a really good one too. All of these are damn good, but building systems to adapt means that you actually have a plan in place for when the going gets tough. Am I trying to say that you need to look at everything? No, but what I'm saying is, for example, whenever we work with an athlete who's adaptable and we're trying to build them to be more resilient or in a specific situation, we use something called a habit plan. And a habit plan is very simple. It's when this happens, I do this. So there's 4 major parts to a habit loop, right? There's a cue that sets you off. There's a craving that you're motivated behind. There's a routine that you follow, and then there's a reward that you desire. So what we do is we know we can't change the cue or the craving. Those are inevitable, right? Those are uncontrollable. You can't control society or the environment. You can control the reward or the routine, though. So what we look at our athlete and say is, okay, if something goes wrong, if coach yells at you, if that's the issue you're dealing with at the time, if something doesn't work the way you want it to, whatever the situation might be, here's the only way you need to adapt. Here's the one way to react. Here's the thing you need to do. Here's your simple action plan. A lot of the time, what do we see people do? They kind of go in winging it, hoping that they're going to adapt when the going gets tough, and they don't, right? And that's a tough thing for a lot of people to go through. So having these systems, it's often overlooked, but I mean, we've got athletes that have their pre-performance system, their morning power system, they've got their nighttime reload system. And the reason they have these 3 major systems is so that they have ways to guide their behaviors, right? The morning is to get them nice, motivated, and focused. Their pre-performance is to help them with exactly what I just explained. And their nighttime reload is to help them get focused and calm for the next day. It's simple stuff.
And not just in the moment, like with these systems, helping them get into or locked into these systems, but it's for reflecting on it as well, because even like the resilience system that we have, like for the physical skills that individuals have. Like I had one player throughout the year recently actually, and he was telling me about, okay, I'm a hard defenseman to play against. I'm stay at home, but we've done that. I've not perfected it, but I'm excellent with it. And now it's time to move on and innovate the game while holding on to that system, but innovating to say, you know what, I got to be a little bit more offensive. I got to attack the offensive side of the game in order to get that next step, because it allows you to see yourself. You follow through this with this system. Is it successful for you? Is it not? What can we innovate and add on to it in order for you to be more successful? So it kind of gives you that baseline as well, especially if you've been doing it for a while, like with your morning routine, your morning power system, your nighttime reload system. Like, is it working for you? After a couple of weeks, you get to see, you know what, it is. Yeah. Maybe it's not. And at different times of the year, maybe one style works better for you than others. So really sticking to these systems too, not just not just having them, but sticking with them for an extended period of time. It's important so that you can see, okay, what are the next steps?
Yep.
Right.
100%. And even going off that, it's like a very simple way for anybody tuning in to do this is by just understanding and writing out the things that are currently giving you issues to adapt with. Right. So maybe it's, you notice in performance, if you're an athlete, coach yells at you. Okay, great. Create a simple habit plan for that. So the cue, let's explain this for a second because I never did before. So the cue is going to be a mental or physical trigger that sets you off. So a physical trigger could be somebody yelling at you. A mental trigger could be like, I don't know, when you're stressed, right? That could be a simple mental trigger. Great. Then there is a craving. A craving is the pain you're looking to avoid. That is the craving. That is motivation. Right? So craving is the pain you're looking to avoid. So maybe you're looking to avoid the fact of coach getting mad at you or for coach to stop yelling at you. Great. The routine is the actual behavior or activity that you take action on then in order to try and solve that pain problem, right? So solving that might be maybe you are somebody like I was and you get emotional and yell right back. That's usually not a good way. Or maybe you're somebody who shuts down and stops being the person you need to be because you feel that's the best way to just get your coach to be quiet. Not a great way, right? So the routine is what you actually do, and the reward is what you're looking to accomplish. So I just want coach to stop yelling. So what you can do to change that behavior and to change this and build a system to be more adaptable is very simple. You can look at it and say, okay, so I know that coach is going to yell. That's the cue. I can't do anything to control that. I really want to make sure that this individual stops yelling at me. What you have to realize, though, is that you need to make sure the routine you're following is actually positive for what you're trying to accomplish and not something that's negative. So a positive thing might be instead when coach starts to yell, you understand it, you take a step back, you breathe, and you get refocused. That's a great way to do it so that you're able to just slow down. Another great way might be if coach is yelling at you and it's the proper environment where it's not in the middle of a game and stresses are high, maybe you can have a certain question you want to ask. Well, how do I deal with this then, coach? But the point is you're going into performances prepared for the things that set you off. You don't need to try and, do this for every single little thing. Just the thing that's giving you a problem. Usually it's just one, maximum two things that are currently challenging you to adapt, right? So very simple stuff. Now, the last point. Using a form of visualization to build your certainty. I think this is probably one that we lean back on a lot when it comes to day-to-day work with our clients, because it's something that we want to make sure everybody's working in. There's so many studies behind visualization and certainty that you're almost naive if you don't look into this. You're almost ignorant if you don't use this in your practice, because there's so much backed up, validated research that shows visualization is key for certainty. So let's break down certainty and confidence for a sec. Confidence is having the trust in your skills based on past results that you've gotten. The problem with that we often say to athletes or high performers is that's great that you're trying to lean on confidence, but what if you've never been in that situation before? What if you're going to a new job? What if you're going to a new team? What if you're facing a new level or a new caliber of, competition? Then what? That's where you need to lean on certainty. And this is what the best athletes in the world do. The great Kobe Bryant, before he passed, talked about how he did this. Michael Jordan talked about how he did this. Great athletes of all time talk about how they use visualization in their practice. In fact, they even did studies on NBA teams. They took a group of 10 players, 3 groups of 10 players. I've said this in past podcasts before too. 3 groups of 10 players for free throws. They took one group and said, don't do anything at all. They took another group and said, just physically practice, which is building confidence. And then they took another group and said, just mentally rehearse 3 times perfect technique and seeing the ball go in on the free throw. The ones that did 3 repetitions got 25% better results than everybody else, including the ones that physically practiced. So my point is, you need to work visualization in. We keep it very simple with our clients, 3 times a week, 3 sets of 10 reps. The first set of 10 reps has to be perfect technique. So if you're, for example, giving a speech that you're a little bit unsure of and you want to be more adaptable to it, see yourself perfectly delivering that speech, the exact points you want. The second thing is a challenge to see yourself overcoming. So maybe you're somebody that gets nervous by bigger crowds. So see yourself absolutely crushing it in the bigger crowd. And then the final part is to see the outcome that you want 10 times, which is simply just visualizing the perfect result. So if you put that all together, you're delivering a speech in front of a big crowd, everybody loves it, and you're getting the results you want. Like, that's the easiest way we like to visualize with our clients. And again, 3 times a week is great. If you can do more, fantastic. I would suggest not going over 6.
And I would say for this as well, like if you lack that life experience, like you've never been in that situation before, not that this will, give you perfection in that moment, but it will help with the nerves and allow you to kind of, what can we say, embrace, I guess, the moment, as opposed to you just worrying about, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? It gives you that little bump of certainty. And I think, you need that. Again, this isn't going to, even if you have had that experience before, it's not going to make you perfect with what you're doing, but it's going to give you a better opportunity to feel in the moment, in the role, allow you to kind of adapt to whatever it is, because you do feel certain going into it. And I mean, why not do it?
Yeah.
Like it's a tool here for you guys to use, and why not do it? If you're not using it, I mean, fine, but why not add it? Let's see what it does for you.
Well, even just to get in on that, like, we're giving you tools here that are tried, tested, and true, part of what we knowingly work with our clients, and we know gets the results. You just need to do it, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things too, where you have all this fantastic stuff in front of you, but it's on you to use it now. And when you know how to use it and you know exactly what you need to do in order to use that, you're able to get this combined effect. Like, a lot of people will say, well, what's the one thing you do with your high performers or your athletes, your clients, to really get them to the next level? And it's like, there's not one thing. There's a nice, beautiful makeup. So like, let's run through this very quickly again one more time. So establishing your purpose is key to make sure you get a core hunger down so that you have a motivation behind your actions. So when the going gets tough, you keep pushing. That's motivation. Second thing is to set one target and truly commit to this target, meaning you're locked in for the next 90 days and you're saying, I'm going to find a way or make one in order to accomplish this. Then you're going to want to make sure that you establish your values and set them and lean on them. If you don't lean on your values, you're kind of just working working without a purpose. Then there's building systems to adapt. Remember that habit loop, right? That cue, craving, routine, and reward. Key to make sure that when you find that one thing giving you an issue, break down the habit, understand, and you'll be able to adapt better. And the final part, work visualization into this. If you don't work visualization into it, you're going to walk into performances feeling uncertain. You can call it what you want. Some say manifestation, some say this, that. But the point is, you are visualizing the results you want. It's not meditation where you're thinking about what you need to do. It's visualization where you're seeing yourself get the results you want. There's a big difference between the two, right? Do you have anything to add, Chris, before we wrap this up?
No, other than that, like, you guys can find, again, we have this in our blog as well, 5 Ways to Be More Resilient, part 1 of 2. You guys should really go check it out. I mean, it's there. We come out with them weekly, and sometimes we discuss them on our podcast. Sometimes we don't. It's a great place for you guys to kind of have like something to come back to, and also ask us any questions. Like, our email is there. Feel free to put some questions that you guys want us to answer, whether it be in a blog, a podcast, whatever. We'll try to get to them as best we can, but it's all there, and it's free for you guys. So, I mean, might as well. And if you want to be notified, like, subscribe to our Molliteum Insider. That's free as well. Again, it's a training that you guys are basically getting in email form. If you have an email, I mean, go ahead, grab it. It's 2 emails a week. One at the beginning on a Monday, the second one on a Saturday, where we wrap up some of the stuff that we've talked about during the week, so you guys don't miss anything. So it's great information for you guys to have. And if you have an email, if you have the opportunity, go sign up for it.
Fantastic. So there you have it. Part 1 of 2. Next week, we'll get into part 2 of 2 on the 5 ways to be more resilient.